And today we've got a very special interview with my friend Anna Rose Bain. You are going to love her. She is a fabulous artist and someone that I greatly admire, and I know that you will too. This interview was actually done at Gulf Coast State College in a program that we call the Encore Program. The Encore Program is this fabulous thing. It was originally started for snowbirds, retired people from up north that come down to Florida to spend the winters with us. And it was a program for them to come and take classes on anything and everything. It's expanded now. We take everybody now. We've got retirees from Canada and from up north in the United States, all the way to local homeschoolers and their kids and things like that. So, anyway, this is a fabulous interview where she came online and spoke to our class. And that's actually the beginning of the Modern Masters podcast. And so I'm really excited about sharing this interview with you. I think that you're going to learn a lot about her and her art and her life and her career. And so with that said, let's get right to it.
Oh, okay.
This went live. We're live, everybody.
Great.
So,
No, that painting was done entirely from life.
wow.
And she would go through growth spurts. So sometimes she wouldn't nap that long, but then other times she would nap for 2 or 3 hours at a time. And so I didn't always know when that was going to happen, but I tried to have everything prepared so that.
So you had an easel where you'd put her down and be like,
yeah, kind of.
yeah, they're waiting to bait. That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. Now, how old is Cece now?
She's 5.5, and she's in kindergarten. So.
Wow. Yeah. Kindergartner.
Went fast.
Yeah. Well, tell your husband to kiss his hair goodbye.
Oh, it's been a long time.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah. So, all right. Well, hey, tell us a little bit about yourself and about when did you start your career as an artist and things like that? A little bit, real quick.
Well, I was homeschooled.
You were homeschooled?
Yeah, homeschooled.
All right.
School. So I had a lot of time to draw and explore drawing because we weren't really involved in things like sports or extracurricular activities. I mean, I took piano lessons every week, but that was pretty much the extent of it. And so it just allowed me a lot of time to really dig into what I was interested in, which was drawing. And I couldn't even tell you when I first started drawing. I mean, it's always been part of my life.
Oh, wow.
And my parents can tell you that too. Like they can if they were to rip up the carpet in our old house, you would find crayon drawings everywhere. So.
Oh, wow.
You there?
I'm here. Can I see you?
Yeah, I see you.
Yeah. Okay, now we can see you just fine.
See you right now.
Okay, let's see. How about now? There you go.
Yep,
okay.
There you are.
I think I tried to put you on solo mode, which probably ended horribly. So,
He doesn't want to share himself.
yeah, who wants to see me? No one's looking at me.
So anyway, yeah, I was just pretty much self-taught until about the age of 10 when my grandfather picked up painting. He was about 70 at the time.
Oh, wow. So he didn't even start painting until he was 70?
No, he was amazing at it, though. He took 2 classes, and it was pretty evident at that point that he was a natural. And so he just started painting all the time. And then when I was 10 years old, I spent a week during the summer visiting my grandparents, and he gave me a painting lesson. And I was just hooked after that. Of course, I didn't do a lot of painting through high school because at the time we didn't know about odorless mineral spirits. And so I would try painting in the basement, which was directly below my parents' kitchen. And they weren't really a fan of the turpentine wafting up the stairs into the kitchen.
Yeah, so turpentine is some nasty stuff.
It's pretty bad. So
yeah. So what do you use now?
College, and then went to Hillsdale College in Michigan, and that's when I really picked up the oil painting and decided that's what I wanted to do.
Awesome, awesome. So you went to college for art?
I did, yes.
Sweet. That's fantastic. So you didn't transition from one career into art. You've always just been an artist, or?
I have always been an artist. I spent 1 year after graduating college where I worked for a professional photographer. So it was still in the arts,
Mhm.
But I think that year I only did a total of maybe 4 paintings, which was sort of depressing for me, but it was a great job. I learned a lot from it.
Right. Yeah, that transition when you get out of college and you're painting like nonstop every day, cranking out artwork like crazy, and then you get out and it's like you don't have like assignments anymore, so you're like, ooh, you know. Next thing you know, you've gone a month without touching a painting at all. So
Yeah, that was hard, but I was planning a wedding, and you know, it was just a transitional time of life, and it was all good. It was very integral to just transitioning to the next stage. So I'm
right.
grateful for that.
Now, what you're a what we call a signature artist for the Portrait Society,
Correct?
and you're also one of the faculty
Yes.
teachers there. And so you're going to be at the in Orlando this year.
I am. I'm so excited. They've never done it there before, so it's a brand new
Yeah, it's about
venue.
time they put it in my home state. You know, it's like it's still an 8-hour drive, but you know.
Well, you know, quick flight anyway.
Yeah, quick flight for you, long drive for me, but that's all right. But so tell us a little bit about what it is. What is a signature artist for the Portrait Society? What does that mean? What is that? And then also as a faculty for the society, what do you do?
Sure. Well, a signature member basically means that you're given a sort of status within the organization. You can sign your initials on every painting with PSS afterwards, which I really don't. I forget to every time. But really, they're just recognizing you for the level of skill that you've arrived at. And that's really all it is a status symbol.
Right. You get a special hat.
I guess so. Yeah. And then faculty, I've been doing that since 2015, but I kind of worked my way up. I've been a member since 2009. So it's been over 10 years that I've been a member of the Portrait Society. And I started out really just showing up to the conferences and networking and meeting people and learning from everything. I mean, I was in every single demo, every lecture, just taking notes like crazy. And as a faculty member now, I kind of wish I could still do that, but I miss out on some of those.
Yeah, sometimes being a teacher ain't no fun.
It's still a lot of fun, believe me,
Yeah.
I enjoy it. But then I was living in Texas at the time, and I became one of their state ambassadors, which is a volunteer position. I mean, it's all volunteer. Really, being a faculty member is volunteer. But that was wonderful because I was able to network with people inside my state, and we could just get together throughout the year, separate from the annual conference, and just talk about portraiture, talk about the business side of it. Hey, how do you do this? It was just a lot of picking each other's brains, which was incredible.
Right.
And then in 2015, I showed up to the conference, and we did kind of this breakout session where a bunch of us decided we couldn't handle it anymore. Everybody else was painting, but we weren't. So we got out our easels, set up in the hallway, and started painting from just a person who agreed to sit for us. And that was when Michael Shane Neal came up to me, saw what I was doing, and was like, hey, that's pretty good. And the next year they asked me to participate, which was wonderful. It was amazing. And I was in their opening event, which they now do every year. It's called the Face Off, and it involves 15 artists painting from live models. And you can, as a participant, you can walk around and see what everyone's doing. You can basically pick who you want to study with because you get to watch how everybody starts or finishes a painting.
Right. That was actually the first time I saw you. Was at the Portrait Society in the Face Off 2 years ago in Atlanta.
It's such a fun event. There's so much energy around it. Everybody's so excited to be there. So that's my favorite thing to do as a faculty member. And then other times they'll ask me to do things like introduce other artists to the stage, or we'll do these breakout sessions where we talk about different topics, whatever it is that they want us to talk about. So this year I'll be talking about presenting your work in the digital age, how to photograph and prepare your work for your website and social media. And then I'll also be doing a demo alongside Marty Reese on painting and sculpting children.
Right. I think I'm actually taking that workshop. So
I will be
there. Yeah, it's going to be a good one. I signed up. Yeah, no pressure. There's going to be all these people watching you. I'll be doing it live on Facebook watching you. No, I won't. But that's good. It is amazing, when you can. And I was talking to the students earlier about how this portrait society is, and just being around all those artists together and watching artists like yourself creating, going from beginning to end in a painting in one quick sitting. And it's hard to describe when you see that, especially with that many world-class artists all together, Now your twin sister is also an artist, Emily.
She is, yes. She specializes in watercolor, although she's dabbled in everything. She's done pastels, oils, charcoal, and she's just incredible at it. And she's now becoming a full-time YouTuber with her.
I saw that, yeah. Yeah. So when are you going to become a YouTuber?
Probably never.
Probably never. Now, kind of in a way though, you're working with the Made for Artist MFA.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, my sister and I were talking about this, how we've kind of taken parallel paths with our art, but they're very different at the same time. YouTube requires that she make videos 3 times a week, which is, to me, just oppressive. But with Made for Artists, which is a brand new streaming service, it's kind of like a Netflix for instructional videos. I can make as many videos or as few as I want and upload them whenever. And it's a subscription service, so you could sign up for a month and then cancel if you wanted to. And you get access to everything. So I think it's great for anybody who wants to just binge watch a bunch of art videos and learn from those. And really, there's no strings attached. So it's incredible. And I've been looking for ways to continue teaching without having to travel, because I do have 2 small children. It's really hard to get away.
Yeah, workshops can be tough.
This was kind of the perfect option for me.
Yeah, using technology to solve that problem is a good thing. We live in a wonderful age. When I was coming up, because I'm old, but old is relative. It's the mileage, not the years. It's like when I was coming up, we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have a lot of these things. If I would have had access to the things that are out today as a young artist coming up, my gosh, the sky's the limit nowadays. And so the technology to be for a young artist or someone that's new to art, to be able to watch you in action and learn, that is a huge opportunity to take advantage of. I think it's exciting.
Thinking about even just when I was in college, the iPhone hadn't been invented yet. I mean, that's crazy.
They're all laughing at you. You know that, right? They're all these folks that are retired and getting there. They're like, look at these young whippersnappers talking. Everybody, they don't know. So how many of you were around when the plane was invented? Yeah, that's funny. So I saw that you were in a magazine this month.
Yes.
Got in the mail. Tell us about that.
And International Artist magazine. So 2 magazines, actually. The International Artist was kind of, they do a feature for faculty members of Portrait Society, and they ask us a bunch of questions. And then in Southwest Art, for the, I think, January issue, they did a full 6-page spread, which was kind of incredible. That was like a milestone for me, because I've never had a feature article like that before. So very honored.
Yeah, that's a big deal. That was pretty exciting to have that. So congratulations there.
Thanks.
So tell us also about your book, the art book that you did about the journey to motherhood.
Yeah.
I can't relate, but tell us about it.
When I first got pregnant with my daughter, it was a surprise, and I was not planning on having kids. I really assumed that I would have to go the same route as many other women artists, where they just chose not to have children, because it seemed like you had to either choose one or the other, because art requires a whole lot of commitment, right? I mean, especially if you want to go into it as a career, make a living at it. And so I was kind of terrified about it. So I used writing and painting as a way to just kind of figure all that stuff out during my pregnancy and then after my daughter was born. And so I would blog about what I was going through, what I was thinking. It's a very, very personal expression of everything that I was dealing with. But after I shared this, it's a bunch of excerpts from my blog, and then all the paintings I did of my daughter and myself while I was pregnant and so forth. After sharing it publicly, I started finding all these other women coming out of the woodwork like, hey, I'm going through this too. Let's talk about it. And so we've started forums about it. We've started, a bunch of us meet for breakfast every year at the Portrait Society to just vent about being a mom and an artist. And we share ideas and share our struggles. And so to me, it was kind of like, this is where I found my voice as an artist, and also where I realized I could make a difference with other people. Because in this day and age, we were talking about technology and all how everything is possible. Well, I think now more than ever, it's possible to be an artist and a mother and do both with excellence. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. I feel like I can hopefully inspire other women to do the same, and not have to wait till their kids are grown to do their art. Because in all the years of teaching, most of my students have been women who waited, and waited for the kids to grow up. And then they're like, yeah, I feel like I just, obviously those years are not wasted, but a piece of their heart was missing the whole time. So that I hurt for them.
That's really powerful statement there, and it's true, in my time teaching here, that's like you have these people that, oh, I used to draw when I was in high school, or I love to paint.
Yeah.
And then they're like, I haven't painted in 20 years or 30 years. I'm like, why? And it's always like life.
Yeah.
But imagine what your life would have been like enjoying it. And then they do it again and they unlock this. Oh, where's this? They miss it.
Yeah, it's amazing to see that childlike wonder come back, and you're going, why did you wait so long? You should have been doing this the whole time.
Yes.
But I get it. I've been dealing with adrenal fatigue. I've been dealing with stress and just chronic exhaustion. And so I totally get why somebody would just let that go for a while. So it's a struggle to hang on.
And what I love about your painting, especially the one that's on the cover of that book, is the emotional connection that you get.
Absolutely.
With that, it's such a power. It just resonates with people. It's that looking inward. It's that human experience that we can all relate to. I mean, I'm a dad, but I mean, even I look at that painting and it's like, you feel it. You feel that. It gave me the baby fever. Gave me the baby fever.
You want to hear about how that painting kind of came to be?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't really know how the idea started, but I was getting quite a bit further along in my pregnancy and realizing that somehow I wanted to try to capture that stage. But I was looking into like getting my belly cast and all this weird stuff. And I'm like, no, that sounds just awkward and uncomfortable. Totally not my kind of art form. And so I was thinking about it and I was like, well, what if I did kind of a before and after type of thing? And that's where the mirror came in. And it was like, okay, I'll make sure that I document how exactly I set up my light, where the camera was that I took my reference photos. So I had tape marks on my bedroom floor for all that stuff. And I left them there. And then when my daughter was 2 weeks old, I set up everything again and reshot the same pose, the same lighting, everything, but holding her, so that I could incorporate all those images together.
So the artist left tape on the floor for how many months?
Well, only about a month.
Okay, because my wife would have killed me with a hatchet. I'm just saying. That's funny. So yeah, that's so you set it up and you got the picture. So then you went back and you did the same pose with the baby.
Yeah. One curveball that happened though that I did not expect. My daughter came 2 weeks early, and then we found out she had a club foot, which I was like, what is this? But there's really nothing serious about it. It just meant her foot was turned in a lot. And so when I took the reference photos holding her for that painting, she actually had a cast all the way up to her thigh.
Oh, wow.
Where they were working to straighten out her foot. And so I had to figure out a way to paint her foot and essentially make it up. So that was difficult.
Right. So you did the foot imagination.
Yeah. You can look at a painting and be like, oh yeah, I remember what I struggled with on this. I remember what I had to deal with here. And So it's interesting. The things that I think about when I see that painting, they're so different than what everybody else sees.
Right. I would have never, I mean, you can't tell. I mean, it's one of those things where you would never know. That's such a great story for that painting. So
Thank you. Yeah.
does anybody out there have a question? Well, we got a question. There's arms up. So let's go ahead.
While you're working or doing your paintings, do you hire a babysitter for your children so you can paint uninterrupted?
Did you hear that?
Yes, I did. Do I hire a sitter? Once in a while. Yeah. I'm fortunate that my husband works from home. And so a lot of the time, if I'm really in the zone, I'll be like, hey, I'm not cooking dinner. I'm not going to do anything tonight. I just need to paint. Sometimes he can't help me with that, and I have to tough it out and just come back to the painting later. But a lot of the time, he'll be like, okay, I got it. I'll take care of it. Lately, I've been hiring college students for a couple hours at a time to just come over and watch the kids. My daughter is in school part of the time, so that helps. But I'm kind of in this awkward stage right now where my son is not really old enough for daycare. So right now, I'm just clawing and scratching for any time in the studio I can get. But
So you're not homeschooling your kids like you were?
Oh, gosh, no. No way.
Yeah. We did the homeschooling thing too. It's like, oh.
I'm not cut out for it. My mom was such a saint. I don't know how she did it with 6 of us. But for me, yeah, I need my alone time in the studio. So.
Whew. My goodness. Yes.
I'm interested in your when you teach others to paint, when you have the lessons, what has been most beneficial to have the biggest impact? I know just like our class is a wide degree of capabilities. What is the most important advice you can give to someone who wants to improve at painting?
Oh, that's a great question. That's what if I say the wrong thing?
They're used to me teaching. Everything they get is wrong.
If I had to just narrow it down to one really important concept, well, I'm gonna have 2 here. I can't just do one. But the first one would be to be intentional about every brushstroke. I think it's very easy as a student to kind of get overloaded with information and either get scared of that information and paralyzed by it, or to completely zone out while you're working. And I can tell immediately when somebody has zoned out while they're painting because they're just going over the same spot over and over again and not doing anything different. So being completely intentional in the moment is so important, and that's hard for us to grasp sometimes because we often are taught that art is just therapeutic. But if you really want to be excellent at it, it's hard work. So that means really getting in the zone and focusing. The other thing I would say is to just be organized with your palette, with your brushes, with your studio, and to know exactly where everything's going to be so that you're saving yourself the time of being like, oh, where did I put that color? Where, and if you have your colors different every time on the palette, that can be confusing. And then your colors are going to be kind of muddled on your palette. So always having things laid out the same way so that you don't have to worry about it while you're working. So those are 2 big ones. But I mean, I love teaching. I could go on and on about things that I've learned from my students over the years. And it's really enlightening just to be led into somebody's thought process through painting.
Nice. Now, when you lay out your palette, how do you lay it out? I know some artists, they will lay out all their colors and then they bring them together. They'll mix, and they're mixing the colors as they're putting them on. And
Yes.
then there are others like myself. I spend almost more time on the palette preparation before I paint than the actual painting. I lay out all my values in all the colors that way, and then I put them on like that. How do you do it?
So I'm not really a big pre-mixer. I think that's what you're implying, the mixing your colors ahead of time. I do like to mix as I go, but I always lay out my colors the same way on the palette. I always have white in the middle, and I work on the right, I have my cooler colors, and on the left, I have my warmer colors, and they're kind of laid out by value. So next to white, I'll have like lemon yellow or something lighter, and then gradually they get darker towards the ends of the palette. And I like having white in the middle because that gives me more of an idea of how it compares with the other values on my palette.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with skin tones, I usually start with grabbing white and then I add other colors into that. So if I have white as my big mama pool in the middle of the palette and then just kind of have all these little baby colors mixed around it, that makes sense to me. And I can actually see all of the subtleties in color, temperature, and value surrounding that main mixture in the middle.
So is it a limited palette or is it more broader?
I would say it's definitely a broader palette. I'm constantly introducing 1 or 2 colors every month or so. I'll be like, hey, I want to try this and see how it works with my palette. And so I don't stick with, I'm not terribly picky about my palette, but I do have a few that are always on there. So, and those are listed on my website if you guys are interested. They're under my materials. And those are the ones I think I mark on there which ones I always have on my palette, and then other ones are more like, well, as needed, you know.
Right. Do you have a favorite color or brand of paint that you like to work with?
I love Michael Harding oils. They're just the most buttery, highly pigmented, amazing paint. Second favorite would probably be Rembrandt because I use their transparent oxide brown and red all the time. And their line tends to be a little bit more transparent in general, and I really like that quality to an oil paint, especially a darker color. And then I use a lot of Gamblin. I use a lot of Sennelier. So I kind of have a bunch of favorites, but it depends on the color.
Right. Now, you had also mentioned solvents. What kind of solvents do you use? Or are you solvent free?
I'm not solvent free. I use Gamsol, which is basically the odorless mineral spirits, but it's
right. That's not as toxic as some of the others, so it's
it's a little less toxic. I have a lot of really good space in my studio, so I don't feel like I'm getting the fumes.
Right. You have a little bit of ventilation.
I use for a medium, I use oleo gel, which is a gelled linseed oil, and it's perfectly safe to use. It's great to mix with your paint because paint is essentially made from linseed oil, so you're not adding all these other fillers to your painting. So I know that it's going to be archival, and I love using that because it's a slow drying medium, and I like to push the paint around for a while. I don't like it to dry very fast.
Right. Yeah, that's because the artist that we spoke with last week, Nancy, she is an acrylic painter, and you are oil painter. What's that?
That's very different. Yeah.
Yes, it is very different. So you are obviously an oil painter. Have you ever worked with acrylics, or have you tried them, or?
Have out of necessity. I would not say I enjoyed them.
Right. Yeah, and I use both in my paintings. I use acrylics, and then I paint oils on top of that because I gild my work and different things. Yeah. And so I tend to use both. So I guess technically that would make me mixed media, maybe, you know. Sure. But a lot of younger artists, they start with acrylics and they're very intimidated by oils. And so whenever I get, you know, when I teach the classical painting here at the college, people are like, is it oils? And I'm like, yes, it's oils. And like, can I bring acrylics? No. And then they freak out. And so there's a big intimidation between, especially with what I call young artists, because it makes everybody feel good, you know, because if you're painting and you knew it painting, you're a young artist in my book. But young artists tend to be intimidated by oils. What advice would you give to, like, why choose oils or why not be so intimidated by oils? And then we got another question in the back.
Sure. Well, I'll keep it brief then. I would just say I'm so passionate about oils. I hope that kind of resonates with people because I always tell them once you start, you're never going to be able to go back. You can't beat the quality and richness of color. You can't beat the ability to blend your color on the canvas. I mean, to me, it's so much easier than acrylic because you can really push it around until you get it right. So with acrylic, it's more like watercolor where you get locked in. And oil also allows just a ton of texture, a ton of transparent qualities, like atmospheric qualities that you might not be able to get with acrylic. So the possibilities are endless. And I just tell people, just try it because you'll love it, really.
Right. We should get a debate. We could have me in the middle and you on this side and Nancy on this side. And it'd be pretty fun to watch.
I like the idea of painting over acrylic. I think that's a great idea for somebody who is intimidated. You could say, hey, you know, if it's the drawing you're worried about or whatever, start with the acrylic and then creep in on the top with oil and see what you think.
Yeah, because I gold leaf my aluminum panels, and then I put a layer of acrylic over it to seal it, and then I put text in my paintings because I do illuminated manuscripts.
Yeah.
And so I put the text on with acrylic because you can run acrylic through an inkjet printer.
Yes.
Because I'm a terrible speller, so I'm not going to take that chance. So spell check, print it out, and then I lay that on, and then I put another layer of acrylic, and then I paint the figure in oil over that. So because I like the way that, for me, oil, light goes through the oil and then kind of refracts and bounces around.
Yes.
And hits the gold and then does that on the way back. And you could just see that. Whereas I haven't seen that with other paint mediums, that only oil seems to be able to do. It gets that amber glow coming out of the paint.
Yeah, it's luminous.
So you had a question in the back.
I was wondering what it was about acrylic paints that she did not like. Since she seems to work fast, I would think that would be the ideal.
Did you catch that?
Yeah, I did. Well, the idea of working fast isn't necessarily fast drawing paint. It's the fact that I like to push it around a lot while I work, and acrylic, if it sets right away, then I can't do that as much.
Right.
And I also
when you work with acrylic, you got to work really fast.
Yeah. I also feel like I like to mix the colors on the canvas while I'm working once in a while. Right. You can't do that quite as much. The other thing about acrylic, we were just talking about this, is it feels dull to me when it's dry. I know you can varnish it. I know you can do things to kind of help with that. But at the end of the day, it's still missing that luster that
acrylic has different properties. And Nancy was talking about last week that when she first started, because she was trained in oils, and then she started using acrylics with the Golden Company, and she started to try to get, when she tried to make the acrylic paint look like oils, she was struggling with that. But then she started to figure out the other things that acrylic can do, because acrylic can mimic all the other paints, but it can do things that none of them can.
Yeah.
So she started to play with what acrylic can do that none of the others can.
Well, that's perfect.
So that's when she got this explosion in her work and all that. So, it's like, they're so different from each other,
that's awesome.
but they are powerful. Oil painting is really good. Now, one person had a question. They loved the way that you rendered hair, and they wanted to know if you had a trick for hair. One of them just went, yeah.
Okay. Well, a little bit about hair. So hair is translucent, right?
Well, mine isn't. Mine's gone.
Light comes through it, but it also creates a shape of its own. So when you think about it as being a shape, but also having translucency to it, that's where all of those transparent kind of colors come in handy. So a lot of the time when I'm starting hair, I'll leave some of the white of the canvas showing through. I'll use a real thin down paint with the white of the canvas kind of behind it as a base or an underpainting for it. And then I'll go over with more opaque paint in certain areas to create the illusion of back and forth. And the hair kind of comes forward in some places and recedes back in others. So I'll use a thicker amount of paint like in the highlights, and then really, really thin in the shadow areas, or maybe where a curl like turns away from the light. So that to me is a big part of it. And then also there's so much color in hair. It reflects all the colors in the environment, especially this kind of hair, like blonde. I'm going to get blue light from the window, or I'm going to get yellow light from behind me. And instead of making blonde hair just yellow, I end up using greens. I use reds. I use browns. I use all kinds, like blue. The last self-portrait I did, I had radiant blue from Gamblin in the highlights of the hair. So you could really have so much color in hair and just get away with it.
Yeah, you can work, it's hands, head, hair. You can just work on those forever. A lot of young artists I see, they take the tiny brush and they just try to paint every strand.
Oh no, don't do that.
Yeah, no, don't do that. Bad idea.
Well, one trick you can play around with if your paint is still wet is you can use the opposite side of your brush to scratch out little stray hairs here and there, but I would never go overboard with that. You know, 1 or 2 in a couple places and that's it.
So
Excellent. One last.
when you're doing the stroking, are you basically, as you come to the end of the hair, you're lifting the brush very lightly, so only the tips of the brush are
Yeah,
rolling
that's
it
a
out?
great question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the technique of the brush stroke.
The direction you start your stroke makes a big difference. If you always remember that the top of the stroke is going to have the most amount of paint on it, and the end of the stroke is going to have less than when you started. So you can keep that in mind with where you begin your brush stroke.
Do you favor a particular brush for that, for hair?
Is there a special brush you use for hair?
I use a number of different brushes for hair. It depends on how much paint I want to load on. If I'm loading the paint in the highlights, I'll use a bristle brush, but I like to use flats because I feel like I can get a more chiseled effect with different strands. So
Is that your go-to brush, a flat? Do you do most of your paintings with flats, or do you use
I
a
use
wide range?
flats, I use rounds. I use a lot of the flat sables from Rose Bain Company. But my favorite bristle brush would be the Robert Simmons Signet brushes. And those I always get flats, like size 7 and 8. And those are the ones I use to just like load the paint on. It's so much fun.
Right. Yeah, I'm a fan of flats. I love my flats. Yep. So that's fantastic. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have
One more.
thing.
Go ahead.
If you want information, because I like to try to do portraits. I've done them in pencil and I've done them in chalk, and I've learned with Tim how to do them in oil. So if we need more help, then can we go on your website and ask you questions?
On my website, well,
Yeah.
you can email me or Facebook me. My website doesn't really have a place where you can do that, but yeah, my email is annarosebain@gmail.com.
Excellent. Well, Anna, thank you so much. This was fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the Portrait Society's big thing in Orlando. I'm going to be there, yeah. So it's going to be fantastic. Get to see you face to face.
Wonderful.
And so,
students to go too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been plugging away. So hopefully we'll drag a bunch of them down there. It'll be fantastic. But
excellent.
Thank you very much. We loved your work. We love talking to you. Hopefully we can do this again real soon.
Sounds great. Thanks, Tim.
Look at you. You're so popular. One day I'll be as cool as her. Maybe. I'll never have hair like you, but maybe if I'm lucky. So, but thank you again very much. And so for all of you out there on Facebook, go ahead and share this like crazy so that more people can see and hear from Anna Rose Bain.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Tim.
Right, thank you. We'll see you later.
Oh man, didn't I tell you, Anna Rose Bain? What a great interview that was. Thank you, Anna. I really, really appreciate you coming on. Man, we got to do that again soon. Actually, we do have her. We are going to be interviewing her and her sister, who is also an artist, at the same time. So that's going to be pretty cool. I'll have Anna on one side and her sister, Emily, on the other, and it's going to be a great time. So stay tuned because that interview will be coming up both on Facebook Live and here on YouTube as well. So keep that in mind. Guys, if you get a chance, check out the different videos that we have to offer here on the Gagnon Atelier YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button for me, and also go to Facebook and like our page, the Gagnon Atelier. We've got a lot of videos there. These videos that you're watching here on YouTube, we do them live over Facebook first, and then we put them here on YouTube. And so I would love for you to check out both of those pages. If you could, you can also find us on Instagram. So with that said, guys, thanks for watching. And just as always, remember, God loves you, and so does your old pal, Tim.